We've gone from coding and processing invoices costing us, including labor, potentially, $5 to $10 an invoice, which is disgusting. This thing's given me headaches for 15 years. Like, I'm traumatized. Construction finance. Traumatized. You can describe your business in a few markdown files. Like, everyone's business is probably like seven text files.
I think 2026 is the year where you choose which side of history you want to be on.
Hello and welcome back. Season 2, Built to Scale. We are over the Easter hump, Matt. How are you, mate?
Yeah, going well. Easter wasn't much of a thing here in the US. No Good Friday, no Easter Monday, working both days. And we didn't even do an Easter egg hunt. So we've just been powering through, not much of a break. How about you?
Wow. So is that like the whole US is in founder mode? Is that like a country thing, or is that a BuildPass non-celebration of Easter?
I don't really have much say in what company holidays we got. I just check the HR system, what's included and what's not, and there's no days off. So I'll roll with it. Yeah,
it's that must be an Aussie thing. I went to I took the family up to the Gold Coast, and I forgot that construction sites unions shut down for the whole week. They have like 10 days off. So wow. I was just thinking, this is why nothing gets done here. There's people taking 10 days off for Easter. The construction industry.
Yeah, that does slow your economy down, doesn't it?
No good at all. And mate, what's I heard some background noise. So no days off at BuildPass, and also a fired up sales team. Can I hear the noise of revenue in the background there? Did I hear before?
Yeah, you do now. We had a good month last month, and we sort of slowed down a little bit this month. And then there was a bit of a come to Jesus moment with the head of sales just before. And it's safe to say that the phone lines are ringing, and I'm hoping that gong is going to sound mid-show. So I'm hoping that it sounds loud enough that we can't actually cut it out using our AI audio tools. And Damo, the producer, is going to really struggle to take it out. That's how loud the gong's going to be.
The sweet sound of revenue, the office hum.
Oh, yeah, it's a good vibration. It's a good vibration.
Oh, fantastic. Mate, so last few weeks, for me, what this show here is to do is to distill what is going on in this noisy world of AI and construction, and distill it down into something usable for the audience. And for me, I'm hearing that the buzzwords adjust every episode, don't they? You sort of have to hang on for your life. And this month feels very much like harness, skills, agents. What are you hearing and seeing? And maybe, I suppose, if we dive straight into it, how would you describe the difference between a skill and an agent? And we'll get into then what we're doing at each other's businesses and things like that. But let's get to the start line here. What is a skill versus what is an agent?
Yeah, so like just to define some concepts, I guess, an agent is an autonomous thing that's going to do a piece of work for you, right? It's going to go out, it gets instructed what you want it to do, and it can act autonomously, make decisions, operate in the background, and do the things on your behalf based on the tools that you give it. And so when we think about what that actually requires, what's happening under the hood, how do you configure that? Well, the agent needs a model or an LLM, and that's, your GPT 5.4 or your Claude Opus 4.6, whatever your poison is. And then around that model, you probably want to give it some instructions. So you've got to say what model we're using. Is there a system prompt to that model? What tools does it have access to? And that's kind of like you're defining the harness that sits around it. So you're taking the vanilla model and you're giving it some tools to use and some instructions. And that you could sort of say is your harness. But when we talk about a skill is a very basic thing. It's a markdown file, which is just a fancy name for a text file that's configured in a certain way. And the skills just define business processes. It's like the old school SOP. Businesses used to have SOPs. This is how we run, and they were designed for humans. Whereas the skill is designed for agents. And so you combine those things together. An agent can have a harness that configures how to use the model, and it loads in the skills at the right time. And then you get your autonomous agent. And then how you actually deploy them can change. There's different tools for doing that. You can do that within Claude itself. You can use tools like, we talked about Paperclip last week to run these agents. But the whole idea here and the intention is to integrate these into your organization and to have them either aiding its staff, working alongside them, maybe replacing them depending on what the role is, and integrating them into the org structure. So I think, to your point, Scotty, around what's the flavor? We've heard the saying that Gary Tan did an article on thin harness, fat skills. So make the harness quite thin. Don't mess up the model too badly with how you think it can perform better. And just really load in as much context as to how you want to run your business. And I think the insight that we've had here as a business is data quality is the big thing. So you don't want to just give it access to everything if you're not sure that everything's up to date. And in our example, we use a tool called Notion that has all of our company documents and processes in it, and we haven't maintained that properly over 5 years. So you can imagine like the crap that's in that. And it's our agents are starting to hallucinate a bit because they're picking up the wrong stuff. So we're kind of declaring bankruptcy on that, starting again and saying, okay, what's actually relevant in what we're doing? That's going to become the company OS, essentially all of the skills that the agent can use. And then our agents can hopefully get smarter.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that like every agent or any piece of AI needs really good context, right? And people sometimes think more and more and more context, but similar to a human, you can get too much information. And then what's really important is this sort of data hygiene, or even this like context hygiene. And I think we were talking about before the show, like everything good is usually distilled down to something simple. And like you look at the theory of relativity, if you can describe basically almost the whole of physics in like a simple formula, you can describe your business in a few markdown files. Like everyone's business is probably like seven text files if you actually boil it down to something useful. And if you can, I mean, what's really interesting, and like the best founders I think do this, is where they get all of this complexity in what they do and they distill it down to something quite simple. And I think the more you can do that within your business, the more leverage you're going to create with AI, because that's the idea of this skinny harness, is then you get to use the full power of a frontier model like Claude, and it doesn't have to go searching and hallucinate with all this dumb context. You're just mapping it onto this simplified, high leveraged, basically for a bit of context or a markdown file, to then for you to conduct whatever activity you need to do. So what you're finding now is you've basically given it access to everything, and it's not giving you what you want. So then what are you doing internally? What kind of skills do you think internally in your team are you saying, okay, let's create a new database to where this is the context, this is the most up-to-date context that we want to give models to leverage them?
Yeah, I feel like it's a really iterative thing. You know how when you're using just like ChatGPT or Claude, and you go down you get really deep into a conversation, it almost feels like it gets dumber at times, and you just need to reset, and you need to take like, okay, as a human, what were the insights that I had from that? And let me just go and like distill that, write it down in some dot points, and then go start a new conversation. I think we need to apply that same mentality organization-wide. It's like, okay, we've been doing all of these things, and we're going to go through a process of learning what the best practice is. How do we distill that down into skills or whatever you want to talk about, and just delete stuff, get rid of cruft. I think there's this, we sort of hang on to ideas of the past. It's like the ever growing to-do list. No one actually gets through the to-do list. The to-do list, if you try to get through every single task, you'd just be sitting there trying to do that all the time, and you wouldn't focus on the most important stuff. And so if something isn't actually naturally rising to the top, we're not naturally, like, as a business looking at certain operating procedures, but they're probably just not important. So let's delete them. Let's not include them in the context. So, yeah, like, that's not super concrete, but I just think this idea of being iterative and refining and simplifying and focusing on what's important and giving your agents access to that rather than everything is going to be the move.
Yeah. And when you hire someone, you don't expect them to have every skill in the business, and you don't expect them to access every file in the business, do you? Like, if you hire a salesperson, you want this really fine-tuned salesperson who knows this, this equation to win you more work. They don't need to know the back end technical side of the business. They're not writing code for you. They're selling the product. And I think we need to get our head around AI in a similar manner. You don't just want to get the world's biggest model and fill it with everything. You want these, point solutions for your model to be working on, because then it's going to have a fast iterative speed. It's going to be highly effective, as opposed to, it's sort of like when you use like ChatGPT Pro. I feel like I haven't used it for like 4 months now, but I remember it feels like a relic, actually, now that I think of it. Like,
Still paying for it though?
I'm still paying for it. I'm just in case, Sam. We're waiting. Yeah, I mean, when you ask it a simple question and it spends 10 minutes giving you a stupid complex answer, and then you're like, oh shit, I quickly should go back to fast, or whatever the quickest model is, because I don't need to go so deep on this item. I just need the outcome. We're also looking at skills as if you're doing something in your department and you're good at it, and you're going to do it more than once, it's going to be somewhat repetitive. You always have a responsibility just to quickly make a skill out of it. And then I think you just put it in like a skills folder, and then basically that's a company artifact. Now, you do not have to run a model through every single one of those, but you can drag and drop them if you want to create agents, or if you want to, or if someone in your team, wants to benefit from that work you did. So that's sort of how we're looking at it at the moment. And it's so easy, isn't it? I mean, it's just like you said, it's just a quick text file. And I'm sort of being what I think we're seeing a lot of at the moment is, founders and CEOs and senior leadership, I think, are really enjoying this moment, because you're basically seeing this consistent theme of progressive founders wanting their whole team to have access to AI. Like the guys from Ramp, your Toby Lookies, is probably a year ahead on this. But then also they want to make it so that there's no real like leader horse to water mode. Like, it's just make it so easy that your employees just, like, you have to serve it up to them on a platter. And basically say, we have set this up for you. There is no friction between you and the AI. And then also you get to sort of design how the AI is used in your business. And then, even for my instinct was this, it was giving everyone, going to enterprise Claude, putting no cap on anyone's spend. And then I created a few skills that were basically my whole life philosophy around decision architecture, and, trying to find the bottleneck in things and fixing them. And then just turning distilling my whole thoughts of life, basically, and for any outcome into a skill, giving everyone free access to Claude and saying, if you ever get stuck, press this button, and it can be like, you have to drop the ego at the door to know that you're pretty much just a markdown file. But I think it's also enjoyable to know that before the knock comes to your door, it's right there for them. There's no excuse.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing here, Scotty, that we have to figure out, that I'd love your opinion on, is how much of this is top down versus bottom up. I think that's what every progressive organization is trying to work out, because like you just said, you want your team, when they're experts in things, to go and create the skill, and that's sort of a bottoms up thing. We're all from the bottom, we're contributing to the knowledge base, and we're improving the organization. But then you also want to have opinions. As an organization scales, that probably, maybe you let in the talent density gets a bit lower, and like, you don't want the AI to get influenced by a B performer, or you want to realize that soon and say, you're good at these things, create a skill for that. But like, don't go and influence the AI when it comes to marketing, because Johnny, your marketing ideas are not good. And so, like, how do you manage that dynamic? And because we haven't figured that out, but I'd be interested in your opinion.
So we're trying to build one of the more complex sort of business in terms of operating in the physical world. Like, so, ultra high end domestic building is the most complex, or it's the most expensive per square meter building there basically is. There's every building's a prototype, so there's no repetition. And then we decided to make it a little harder because I like hard problems. And we decided to do it in every corner of Australia all at once as we started. So it's like tackle the most non-repetitive, hardest problem you can get and do it geographically all over the place and just get none of the normal benefits of growing a business, right? So to do that, I've never looked at an issue as like an isolated issue. To me, it's like a bug in the system. So the one thing, I let our employees sort of do whatever they want, but the one thing I protect is the systems. So like, I don't want anyone messing with our systems because everything needs to be done at scale. Like a good sporting team, they usually get on the back of like, we don't care where we play you, pick a field and we'll go do what we do. And I think as a business that's unique to ours is I want us to be able to say to clients, no matter where your job is in the world, we will execute the same product. And to do that, you need systems that can be followed and repetitive. So basically every issue in the business we look as a system issue. And the one thing that I guard is I build, whether it's the Monday boards, the systems, or in this case, the skills, that's where I see the valve for me of happy to take any input, but what gets followed, that passes through me. And I think that's probably the gateway, that has worked for us, because it means that people have autonomy above and below that. And then it just passes through a valve of me is like, once it's gone through me, then it's in the system, borderline biblical, you can just follow it. But you can also then play around with your version of that.
How do you define the valve? Because I think this is a really interesting point that I want to double click on. And we've been talking about it in our business, and it's how much involvement that founders want to have over certain processes. Are you saying that anything that affects the system more broadly, what needs to go through the valve, and that valve is you, and once it's past that, then it's in and can be reused? Or have you got a different way of defining what your involvement needs to be when it comes to how decisions get made? And in particular, Scotty, one of the things that I've been thinking about is there's certain categories of what I want my involvement to be. It's either just like inform, like let me know you've done it. Like I don't care about being involved in the process. Just let me know you've done it. It might be approve, like I don't want to be involved, but like just let me give the tick of approval before you do that thing. Or it might be consult, like I actually have a lot of context here to give. Get me in early because I'm going to be able to stop you from wasting 2 weeks in the wrong place and then me just not approving it. This is like different layers, but how do you define that valve that you're talking about?
Well, you've got to start really in the mundane. You've got to create initially, one, like an org chart, or what we call an accountability chart, as to what does the business do and who does it? What seat does that person sit in? What is their title and who has authority and ultimate accountability for that? So that's, probably strategy between co-founders and maybe like a COO or something. Once you've laid out that framework, then whoever's sitting in a certain seat or a role, they know exactly what they're accountable for. And then they probably go to, well, how do I execute on this in accordance with the company standards? So then for me, like I, for instance, set up exactly how I want every meeting in the company to run. So if you're going to meet, I want to give that meeting, if you're going to meet, I want to give that meeting structure, an agenda, and an outcome. I don't want you to go meet for the sake of meeting. I don't want you to go into a meeting and not know why you're there. So once you understand why everyone in your business is meeting, and you put your nose in and go, okay, from now on, this meeting is called X, this is the agenda, and this is the outcome. I think that's a really good way to sort of control what's going on in the different projects of the business. And then from there, I want to create the Monday boards or the dashboards or whatever, whether it's for someone, the Notion or whatever. I want to design what those dashboards and what those scorecards look like. So then I'm influencing what are the incentives of the business. And that's, aligning. And like for me, it goes back to my method that we're probably going to repeat in the show. I'm going to repeat in the show for like the next 10 years until people get sick of it. But it's this thing around direction. So you set the direction. When you set a direction, the first thing you need to do is measure the outcome you want. So you need to create a measurement to your direction. And then you need to incentivize everything in the one direction. So it's you measure it. Once you've got a measurement, like we want to do X, you've got a measurement, then you incentivize everything towards it. Once you've incentivized, you want to make sure that you have control over the outcome. So, you set parameters, you bring things in-house if you have to, or you get contractors or whatever, but you gain control. And then once you've got incentives and control pushing the same direction, then you can start to systemize. So that's where I'm involved. And then eventually the most mature outcome of this is automation. But I basically now have that as a file. So once I've set up, what does the meeting architecture look like? What does the decision architecture look like? Then, now we've compressed this into a file. Then I just follow the business around by the issues. So every meeting with our business has a scorecard. So it's like, what are we all here for? And then anything that turns red brings up an issue. Every issue I basically find out about and I run it through that model of where's the problem. Is it a direction problem, an incentives problem, a measurement problem? And then we just tinker with this. I just tinker with the system in the background. And then so I just become like an issues funnel. And then I just tinker with the system and let everyone keep doing whatever they want. It's basically the idea.
That's awesome. And to make it concrete, like what tools are you using there? So you go into a meeting, you've got the scorecard, you've got AI note takers, I'm sure, that are taking notes. If something is flagged as an issue, is that just directed to go into your Monday board and then you get tagged in it? Like, what does that actually look like?
Yeah, so every meeting for me has a Monday board, and that Monday board has the scorecard on it, and that's actually the meeting agenda. So there's no minutes anymore. I think minutes are a waste of time. So Monday board's a task management software for us. It's also a programming software and sort of timelines and Gantt charts. And then it's also the scorecard software, which becomes, so the agenda is the scorecard. So like a new business agenda might look like, did we hit our 10 leads, this week? Did we issue our 5 quotes? Did we, XYZ? And if any one of them is red, it goes straight into an issue. Like there's no gray area here. If it's red, it's an issue. And then you basically go through your scorecard. And the next thing is you go through the issues. And then the issue runs through a model of, do we have a direction problem, an incentive problem, a measurement problem, or a systemized problem, or a talent or a resource issue. And then that runs through a model. And what's the constraint? And then basically it comes with a resolution to that issue. And then the resolution to that issue feeds back into the system and just basically starts the process again. And then you just find that you're filtering down. What you end up doing is the issues usually in your business usually start at directions or incentives or measurement. And then as your business matures, it gets into a system problem and then it gets into an automation problem. And that's like you see the maturity of your issues go down that pipeline from direction to automation. That's what we're finding at the moment.
And when it comes to automation, like obviously you've talked to me about the sort of new operating system that you're trying to build, having different agents doing things. Do you think that you need to have that, this model dialed in of knowing direction so that you can then go and feed the agents with this? Or can you actually set up agents to help run that model of thinking better? Like chicken or egg, how are you thinking about that in ensuring that the agents are either taking the great direction, incentives, and alignment that you've already got and amplifying that versus amplifying the wrong things? And is there a world where we can use these agents to actually help with that? Like, so I'm going to have an agent that's going to assess these things and align it and say, hey, we're actually off track in this area because we've had an agent looking after that.
Oh man, that just gets more complex and complex, doesn't it? So
yeah,
I think for me, this framework applies to every flesh employee, as you would call them, and then every digital employee. We want everyone to have the same mental model. However, I see them as very different things. So, we've set up a system. I tell you what's funny is the incentive part of what I'm talking about pretty much I find only matters for humans. Do you know what I mean? Like you can pretty much go to direction, measure, system with intelligence. The incentive part is actually it's like herding sheep for humans. Like, and it's like, hey, all right, to get you to actually do this, I need to incentivize you because you're human. But you don't really need to incentivize a model. It will just do what you want. But I think for me, from the agent side of things, what we've been looking at is Damo, who's our world-class producer now for season 2 that we've got here. He's also, an AI and agent guru. And then what we've basically done is put him together with Sat, who's our sort of internal, workflow guru. And I'm basically, we've so far built the system around how do we build something at scale that humans can control. And then I think separately on the agent front, the way we're deciding how to build agents and what to do is we're going, okay, what's the most high impact, but also most repetitive activity? So the lowest hanging fruit with the highest leverage that we can do. And for us, construction accounting systems are uniquely dog shit in terms of like, we can't just use Xero and Stripe and, hand over our finance systems to it. It's all this project and cost code based accounting and work in progress and work in hand, and construction has its whole world of accounting that's really complex, and most of the construction accounting tools are really difficult and clunky to use, and it's just high repetitive. You get people on circa $200,000 sitting there doing this repetitive work on like construction accounting software. So what we decided was like, let's attack our finance department first. And to give you an example of like just from the last fortnight, with Damien and Sat, I think they've developed a workflow where we've gone from coding and processing invoices, costing us, including labor, potentially, $5 to $10 an invoice, which is disgusting, down to half a cent. So we're talking like multiple orders of magnitude savings here, like 1,000 times, 1,000 times savings. So like just that alone, right? And then it was funny, we were having a chat yesterday, Damo and I said, look, if this quarter we can get, June 30 is the Australian financial year end. I said, if we can get the finance department, all the agents built for the finance department, that would just be heaven. Like to me, that there's no bigger outcome. Like, let's just do that. And I think even his response is like, oh, we'll do that before the end of the quarter. And it's like, holy moly. Like, what are we really talking about here? Like what, as a business owner, when has anything like this been available in history where you can talk about a department like that? This thing's given me headaches for 15 years. Like I'm traumatized, construction finance, traumatized. And, and then, it's similar. What I think is really cool and what people, everyone's talking about just-in-time software and all that kind of stuff. And we'll get into what you and I, want to do together. And it'd be great for you to talk about, what BuildPass's thoughts on construction finance software is. But when we build this, we still need a software partner, right? We still need a software partner to help us through this workflow. But then from your point of view, are you going to be designing a software to talk to my finance guy, or are you going to be building it to talk to Damo's agent?
Yeah. And that's like the golden question for a software business right now. Software as a service has had its golden age, and now it's really under the magnifying glass is like the value of it. And so as a SaaS business owner, we need to very carefully navigate this. What we are finding is that exactly what you just said, no business is going to go and try and, just completely rebuild all of the systems that they're using from scratch, even with the quality of the tools. Because like we're a software business. We've got 15 world-class engineers that are working on a problem, and they're all AI enabled. It is not a good use of our time to go and rebuild a CRM and replace HubSpot and try and build a payroll system to do our payroll and our HR and all of our other systems that we use. What we are doing is we're focusing on our core competencies, and then we're also looking at all of the areas that are unique to our business and trying to automate them with internal tools and processes and making our humans more effective. But we're not getting rid of these core systems of record. So what we are doing at BuildPass is we are becoming that core system of record for a construction business. And so our mission up until recently has been build the world's smartest operating system for construction sites. And the only change to our mission in the last 3 months has been to drop sites off the end, build the world's smartest operating system for construction. So where we have made changes is we're not just going to help be the platform and the system of record for the construction site. We're going to be the system of record and the operating system for a construction business, for the whole thing. So what does that mean? From trying to win work at the start, to going out to tender for it, to going and finding your subcontractors and pricing up the work, to then ultimately winning the job, doing your contracts, getting into doing your budgeting, making sure that you've got all of the schedules and the scope of works in place, and then going into construction management and then managing the projects financially as well. Our platform is going to provide all of the tools to do these things, and it's going to provide the infrastructure to do that. But it's not going to get in the way of W.Build's finance agent that's got certain automations, but it's going to be the tool that you can actually then run those invoices through and make sure that they're stored correctly and you've got them. It's talking to other systems. And so it's all about providing a secure way of structuring data and providing the infrastructure to do these things. And we will be building a Claude connector. We'll be building a ChatGPT connector. We'll be building a CLI tool or a command line interface so agents can talk directly to our software. So rather than you guys having to go and build a bunch of this, you can build an agent that just goes and talks to our system and uses the things that we've already built and that we're essentially promising through our contract to maintain. And that's why you're paying us. You're saying, right, I'm not going to spend tokens to build that and then have the responsibility of a potential data leak and of maintaining it and updating things. I'm going to outsource that to BuildPass, who are experts in doing that. And then we're going to build around it. We're going to have all of our agents that can talk to it and our other tools. And if you need a really customized dashboard for something, you'll just go and prompt Claude and get it to do it. And it will have the connector and all of the data there ready for you. So that's essentially the change to our mission. We've dropped one word off the mission, but as part of doing that, we've taken a 5-year roadmap and we're condensing that into a quarter or two because of the ability to build now with AI. And really, like, we get questioned this all of the time now. Like, if anyone can go and build software, what is your moat? And our moat is the ability to move really, really fast and to provide this infrastructure in a enterprise grade way to customers that we know really well with an opinion on what the software should look like, because we've been chatting with people like W.Build and 1,000 other companies over the last 5 years. And we're building all of that into our prompting that we're doing. So we're making our prompts smarter because of the knowledge that we have as an organization. So that's a long way of saying, yes, Damo's agent will be able to talk to BuildPass, and you'll be able to speed up the work you're doing there.
Well, I think, and the companies that are trying to protect themselves from API access and agent access, they're the dinosaurs that are going to die. Like, because businesses are going to go this way, or else they're not going to be loyal to you. What you want to say is, hey, we'll open the door. You bring what you want. We just want you to use us. We just want you to, pour tokens through our business type thing. And I think you're right that in the modern age, the new moat is how nimble and your velocity. I don't think that Autodesk and Procore can acquire their way out of this big problem. It's the same with like Microsoft. Like, we're seeing the reason these model companies have been so successful, and they're getting valuations up near $1 trillion. Now, $1 trillion used to take 40 years to get to, and now they're getting to it 4 years. Is because they've got Microsoft are just confused. Like, they're trying to roll Copilot out, but like you with your Notion board, imagine the database of Microsoft and just trying to get that machine to be nimble and move. You can't do anything. Like, they're just probably frozen in all their own complexity. So unless they're going to fire everyone and rebuild from the ground up, sort of like an Elon Twitter type thing, you're going to be, you can't manipulate those businesses. So I think you're right in terms of saying, well, you guys can just drop what you're doing or pivot into finance or whatever, and it's not a big deal. And then you're going to start from first principles and from your customers, what your customers want, connecting to our team with people like Damo. And that's the future of software. You know what I mean? And then, and then from there, you're just going to be getting more sticky, and getting better data and things like that. But you've got this good hygiene because you haven't got 20 years of bad data and old ways of doing things. So I think you're right there. And I think, like the product you've mentioned, Supersite, I think that's going to be sort of the kingmaker of all this. Like, I think from our point of view, like, I make all of our site managers call people with Granola now, because I basically don't want a piece of communication to slip through the cracks, of our business. It all needs to be captured, and it all needs to make the business better with every sort of interaction, and every touch point in the business. And if we lose it through a phone call that doesn't get, note takes on it, or he said, she said on site, that's, to me, like, that's sort of like a leaky boat. So I think, and as you're capturing that data, you're going to be able to add more value to businesses. And I think, we spoke about this 12 or 18 months ago. I'm really excited for when, once you guys have solved the white collar problem over the next, we'll give you 18 months. And we've got the last piece of software that we need in construction is yours. What's really going to be interesting is then starting to capture that physical data on site. Like, hey, we'll give you free, by that time, Meta, whatever they are, and we'll give them to you for free. You've just got to put them on. We just want all your tradesmen to start putting them on, and then start capturing that physical data, and then, mapping the operating system into the physical layer for when the robots come.
Yeah. And that really is the next frontier. And you're right that we think that Supersite is going to be a real game changer, because it's going to start capturing some of that through the device we already have. So it's almost like that interim step to what you're saying of, let's literally capture everything that's around us through cameras and sensors and glasses. Currently, the interim step is everyone has a phone, and apps can do a lot on the phone. And so what we're saying is, all of these places where communication is happening and context is potentially slipping, because that's the new opportunity cost in business, is losing context on things. Like, that's what you want to avoid. And so what we're saying is, it's okay for a site manager to have a lot of phone calls. Like, that's the way business works in construction. That's all good. So we're going to transcribe those calls. I'm going to put them into a model, give you access to all of them. And then that can go back and feed the core platform. And it's essentially like Granola, but rather than having to use Granola and then Monday and BuildPass and your finance tool and whatever else you've got in there, it's saying, why not combine them into one, and they're all coming in. We're giving you the tools to pull all of that context in, and you can do what you like with it. So yeah, we think that that's going to be a really big thing in like that final layer out on site. And I do agree that the next frontier is then capturing more physical world data, and we're excited to do that as well.
Yeah, it is an exciting concept, and similar thing. If you as business owners, if you really need to start looking at your businesses as basically data capture machines and context capture, and then distilling that into something usable, which is like at the start of the show, talking about skills, like basically distilling context into a skill. And then whatever the best practice is, constantly iterating on that, not making it longer. Like, so not just adding and adding and adding, but probably more actually compressing and compressing and compressing until you get to that beautiful equation of, this is the way we do it, this is the simplest form, and it can be scaled. I think that's as a business owner what you're trying to do. And then whatever industry you're in, you're trying to find a software partner to go on that journey with you. And I think that's probably the conversation you and I have had is, and at the start I spoke about alignment. What you really want is alignment between customer and service provider. And we do it with our customers where we set up time, cost, quality, and experience. And we basically say our customers want them all, and everyone else makes excuses that you can't do them all. If it's going to be quality, it has to take time and it's going to cost a lot of money. We're like, no. You got four things that matter. Let's completely align them from the start. And then all of our systems incentivize for them. So we're completely aligned and our incentives point in the same direction. And then once you're aligned, then you have this compounding exercise where it just like the flywheel starts turning and you're both pushing in the same direction. The equivalent of like running with a bobsled together. And that's where the velocity and better outcomes come, is when all that's happening, as opposed to, trying to do a point solution or something like that.
And I really like that example of creating alignment and spending that time, because I think where we're going in business, and everyone always talking about, okay, we're going to like bring AI in, like what happens to all the humans, but really what we're talking about here is getting the humans to do the highest value thing. How can you do the highest leverage thing and get rid of the low leverage things? And that is the highest leverage thing, is creating alignment between the parties in a transaction to create economic value. Like that's really what we're all doing in business.
Mm-hmm.
And in your example, building a high-end home for a client, in what we're doing, working with a builder like yourself to deliver value. And so the more that we can spend time together in a room, creating that alignment, understanding problems, and less time on all the other BS that's happening in organization, that's going to create that velocity. And you think about, what if that's amplified across everyone? That's not like just a founder thing. Like I'm really enjoying my time in being able to go back and spend more time with customers, have made the conscious decision that in this shift, I need to be spending more time with our customers than I was, rather than being caught up in the day-to-day of running and scaling a business, because that's so important. But think about that when that happens at scale. Every sales rep is not spending any time figuring out who they're going to call. They're not spending any time doing note taking or following up on actions or researching stuff. They've just got all that context there, and they can spend the time doing the thing that what sales is really meant to be, developing a relationship, a human relationship with someone to understand their problem and try and match that problem to a solution you have and provide value. That's what sales is. Marketing's the same. Like, let's get in a room and be really creative around how do we want to pitch this? Who are the customers? And just assume that everything's possible. Like, just assume it's all possible. We can do this stuff. We don't have to worry about resources and constraints. It's abundance, Scotty. It's abundance.inc. It is going to be, that's the world that we are operating in. And it's really exciting. And so like when people say like all this job loss because of AI, yes, if you look at the news, there are big companies laying off a bunch of people and blaming AI. Really what they're saying is we hired too many people that aren't working hard enough, and we're deciding to downscale and keep the good people. But for organizations that are looking to grow, and I'd argue that they're the organizations that matter, that are looking to grow and create more economic value, it's Jevons paradox. As soon as something becomes more efficient, a resource becomes more efficient, it becomes more in demand because it has the ability to create more economic value. And so everyone getting empowered by AI, having an AI assistant to do the boring stuff for them, that is making that person infinitely more valuable. And you want to work with more of those people. And I think we were talking about Notion before. Notion did a really good marketing campaign over like this whole AI thing, and how the narrative is like, all, yeah, use AI to cut out humans and automate this and automate that. But we're still human. Like, most people want to actually work alongside others. Like, yes, there's these stories of like the solo billion-dollar founder now, and maybe that's, there's a niche of businesses that just want to run as a solo business and just do their own thing and work with some agents. But my hypothesis is, and I think that what Notion was saying is, ultimately we're still humans. There's a reason that we want to go to a restaurant that's busy and not one that doesn't have any people in it. We want to be around other people. I think that's the same in the workplace. So let's not focus on just trying to reduce headcount as much as we can. Let's focus on working with really high impact people. And hopefully, if you're in an organization, you can turn into one of those high impact people by being empowered by AI. And this business can go and create way more economic value by being empowered and having those human relationships. And hopefully you get the best of both worlds there.
Yeah, absolutely. Great rant. I think, I saw even this week that like capitalism created the win-win, right? The opportunity for a win-win through value creation. And then I think, the win-win produced and the value creation started producing, compute and scaling laws. Scaling laws produce AI. AI produces abundance. And once you've got abundance, you're not fighting over resources anymore. And you then get to create alignment. And I think, what I sort of realized in what we're doing is I realized we've got two things we've got to do. We need to leverage the AI, find a software partner to go on the journey with us and go all in and basically the most highest leverage activity possible, like throw the harness on the best models for us and, take us to the promised land. And then I realized that my percentage, our COGS, our cost of goods sold, my percentage of cost is only 10% of the build cost. So the other 90% is where, all the idiot index is, and I can either leave it behind and just keep concentrating on trying to fine tune my 10, or I can grab the whole stack. I can grab 100% of the cost and drag it with me. So that's where, from our point of view, that's where the sort of WVC models come about, is where there's no point us getting smarter and smarter and smarter and you and I going into a bubble and becoming geniuses. I've got to grab the 90% of costs along with us. And that's where, from our point of view, we're wanting to bring trades on this journey with us. So it's basically like once you enter into our ecosystem and, you're on our flywheel, we'll bring you along with us. And then from my point of view, I want to see the cost to build a home just compress. I want to see the time to build a home compress, and on some of our goals, while everyone else is talking about inflation and construction costs going up 10%, our goals are to be half price in 5 years' time. Half the time, compress it by half in 5 years. Now, I don't want to tell you what our 10-year goal is because it's starting to sound silly, but you're starting to get where this is going. And I don't think that businesses that want to operate on an island are going to get there. I think you've got to bring your client, your supply base, your software partners, and you've got to bring everyone with you and point in the same direction, or else you're sort of going to fine tune something that doesn't have as much leverage.
And so what is the value prop of WVC? What are you doing and why? I want the pitch, Scotty. Why should someone sign up to coming on this journey with you?
Okay. The reason there's a few reasons. Number one, everyone in my industry has been told that you just need to do it in your local village. Now, sometimes you're allowed to expand to your local city. I remember when I went across to Silicon Valley and I met, a lot of the main venture capitalists, none of them wanted to talk to me because you can't scale construction. And then when I realized what they were saying is, they can't scale construction. Not I can't. They can't. They don't know how to do it, which is fair enough. It's a good answer if you're a smart venture capitalist. So I came back and I thought, well, I can scale construction. We're doing the most complex, non-repetitive construction all around the country, and you get the same product in the Gold Coast as you do in Melbourne. And they're three, for people overseas, that's the equivalent of like Russia and England, by the time you travel. So, we're doing it at scale and geographically as well. And then I think when I look at our subby base, the first question that anyone asks me, how do you get contractors? How do you do this? And I'm thinking it's all the same thing. It's all just, the same thing: direction, measure, incentivize, systemize, automate. And then so what I want to do is I want to those trade founders, those trades, those entrepreneurial trades that have been told by everyone, stay in your lane and don't scale and just have 5 people in your business and work in Brighton to Sandringham. I want to say to them, hey, no, you can come with us on this journey. And not just that, if you partner with us, we'll take you around the country and eventually around the world. And if we all get on the same page, if we all operate under the same framework and the same systems, we're all going to be more efficient and make more money. So what we're doing is we're opening the program initially up to a 12-week accelerator. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to take, say 12 or 15 trade companies through exactly how we built our business and all of our systems and open up, the cookie jar, everything, like, so no holds barred. And we're not just going to show them, we're going to build it for them inside their businesses. And then basically once they get to the end of the 12 weeks, their competitive edge on our work will be insane. But the other thing for them is their competitive edge outside of our work will be insane against their other trade businesses for their other clients that they're competing against. So we're looking to, what seems unnatural is, builders and trades are usually fighting each other and, they're competing for the last penny. But what we're saying is there is abundance out there. And then, so within that abundance, let's share in it, but then let's also build a flywheel that we're all on. Because by the time we look back in 2 or 3 years, if we're all pointing in the same direction and sharing in the same value, the people on the other end who have got builders who, are going out and just getting random trade quotes and they're all pulling in different directions, they're all using different systems, none of their systems are talking to each other, there's no shared knowledge, I think they're going to be uncompetitive.
Love it. If I'd kept up my pool cleaning career and I was trying to scale my pool cleaning business, I'd be applying for WVC for sure.
Look, and I think the major thing, if I should have dumbed it down. The major thing here is we are in the biggest industrial revolution that has ever happened, not of our lifetimes, ever. And there's going to be 2 sides to it. Those that prepared for it and put a skinny harness on it and rode it to victory, and those who put their head in the sand and decided they knew the right way, and they didn't have to listen or try or do anything, and they just wanted to keep, they wanted to keep riding the horse, so to speak. And I think what we're doing, there will be other methods to riding this AI wave, but I don't think anyone in construction is spending more time on it than me. I spend 16 hours a day, 7 days a week on it. And then, we're adding people to our team that are spending the same amount of time. So potentially there's other businesses doing that, but I think what you want to do is surround yourself with people like that, and then you don't have to do it. You can benefit from that. And then we want to invite the whole value chain along for the journey with us. And then I think if that compounds, that's the secret sauce is, being a part of an environment that's thinking that way. And I think we'll all look back and, for me, the goal is like, if you think about purpose, I want the tradespeople, I want everyone involved in our value chain to have like a generational wealth change where their grandkids say, my granddad was the first one in on this. He was the first plumber to leverage AI in high-end residential, that kind of thing. And I think that they're the stories that will be told generations from now.
Totally. And it sounds traumatic, but I think 2026 is the year where you choose which side of history you want to be on. It's changing that fast, and everyone this year has that choice. So whether it's signing up to WVC, whether it's choosing that we are going to become a more efficient AI-enabled business that has bigger ambitions, now is the year to do it.
Yeah, it's the year it got intuitive, isn't it? Like where it just, the barrier to entry became basically just taking a step. And then all you have to do is take the step.
And it became clear it's 100% on where the world's going. 2025, it was sort of so-so, but it's clear now. And so you're either on the bus or you're not.
Awesome. Well, mate, I reckon we park the bus for this episode and start delivering on some of those promises we just made.
Oh yeah, I need to go in my bus and pick my son up. So that's good timing.
Fantastic. All right, awesome, mate. We'll lot in there, and I look forward to catching you on the next one.
Cool. Thanks, Scotty.